We couldn't find ourselves in a better place in the Bible moving into Christmas than this little gap here in Luke chapter 2, where as Jason explained last week, we have this like 12-year absence in the life of Jesus. And thinking back and reflecting on that, I thought it was perfect for Christmas because this is where we just went through the story of Jesus' birth and how God chose to come into this world. And thinking of what happened during this 12 years in Jesus's perspective, he was learning what it's like to be human. The all-seeing, all-knowing God created humanity, but to actually live and experience that helps him relate to us on a personal level. I mean, this is where Jesus learned like what it was like to fail. He had to learn to walk and do all these other skills that young humans do. And if we ever think that God isn't personal to our situation or knows what's going on in our life, this gap in the Bible would certainly help us understand that, yes, God does know what it's like to be human. And last week, Jason talked about faithfulness, when the mundane happens and just being faithful to God. And I think that's a perfect segue into these opening chapters, not chapters, but the verses here in Luke 41 through 44, where we talk about Jesus' parents going to this festival every year. And I mean, it says things like that. They did it every year. It was as usual. They were just kind of doing what people do, and we all fall into that gap. And I think that's also something that Jesus would have learned when he was young, that people tend to fall into a routine and that things do become mundane and usual over time. Even the things that are really special and unusual, if they keep happening to us over and over, we have a tendency to normalize them. And in these verses here, I can certainly relate to that because Jesus and Mary actually lose Jesus for a while. And we actually have a story where when one of our kids was younger, we were doing a go-kart race and we're all fixated on the action. And our youngest daughter happened to wander off. And all of a sudden it's like, where is she? I don't know. And we actually ran around and it took 5 minutes, but it seemed like an eternity, but we did find her. And those emotions inside that I recall kind of helped me relate to this story here, because it says, that Jesus and Mary were doing this normal activity, and they didn't even miss Jesus at first because they assumed he was with other people. But when he didn't show up, they started to look for him among their relatives and friends. And I think about that, a lot of times in our lives, we don't really miss Jesus, right? We're going through normal life and we assume everything's good and we assume what God is going to do and we assume this and we assume that. But when Jesus doesn't show up in the way that we expect him to show up in our lives, we might get that sinking feeling in our gut, right? Jesus, where are you? Have you abandoned me? What's going on? And that's where, in earnest, we really start looking for him because we need him. And often we forget that in the usual of our life. And just wanting him there in the mundane, like Jason talked about, building those skills that every day we want that, grow that relationship with Jesus, just like he did with us. During those 12 years of silence, he was learning how to relate to us on our level because, just living as a human is much different than creating humanity and relating to humanity on their own level as only Jesus can. Is something we really, really need to focus on or remember this Christmas time. It's just great to reflect on how personal God is, how he came into this world looking for us where we are, He didn't expect us to approach him in a certain way in his greatness. He said, no, I'm coming to you. I don't even care how messy your life is. I want to be part of your mess, and I want to help you through it. So as we celebrate Christmas this weekend, I just ask everybody to spend a little time reflecting on that and remembering how personal our God is. With that being said, on behalf of Jason, myself, and everybody involved in IndyCar Ministry, we wish you the merriest of Christmases and just hope you really enjoy celebrating the birth of our Savior. We'll catch you next week on Wednesday Wisdom.